Namaskar, Dada. Thanks for
Namaskar.
taking the time. Maybe we start with a short introduction, because probably most people are wondering, who is this?
My name is Dada, Krsnasevananda. I'm a monk and meditation teacher pretty much my entire adult life. I've traveled a lot, including in my childhood. I spent a lot of my childhood in Japan, and I think that gave me a sense for mysticism and aesthetics, which, I very much am still connected to.
How come you traveled as a child?
My father's work took him to Asia. Yeah.
Japanese culture is probably more connected to Zen and Buddhist spirituality. I guess that was one of your first touch points with spirituality then?
Yeah, not so much when in my childhood, but later I kept that connection at university, and I was focusing on East Asian studies, and then I came more connected with that.
I see. And then when did you actually decide to become a monk of the Anandamaga mission?
I was studying. I came back to Japan after university somewhere else, and I had a scholarship to study there, but in my mind I had another purpose. So I wanted to use the 2 years of my time in Japan to explore the essence of life, or the meaning of life, and the spiritual journey. And at the kind of the peak of my searching period, a monk of Anandamaga came to the student hostel where I was staying and gave a talk about meditation just at the moment when that's exactly what I was looking for.
Right.
So I was in Japan, and it wasn't Buddhism or Confucianism or Shinto, but rather Anandamaga.
How were those early years for you, standing out quite a bit in that culture, probably with a rather exotic tradition, and also accepting an authority, a new authority, a teacher and master in this space? I'm not sure how Japanese and generally East Asian cultures think about it, but in the West it's not so common these days to accept a figure, a personal figure, as a master, right? That's like an outdated idea. To be fair, Christian religion also has that central figure. It seems like a lot of religions have that in the past, but it's just not a very modern idea. How did you deal with that? Because a lot of people who get into meditation and they stumble upon the fact that oftentimes you somehow are guided to accept a master, they don't really get along with that idea.
I don't know. I think I related to it more like the magician's apprentice. So when I was in Japan, at that time I picked up a book by Carlos Castaneda called The Teachings of Don Juan. And it tells the story of an aging magician who realizes he's going to die soon, and he's looking for the right person to share his wisdom with. And he meets Carlos and guides him step by step through this amazing spiritual world. And when I finished that book, I looked up in the sky and I said, "Where is my Don Juan?" So it wasn't a problem for me. It was exactly what I was looking for at that time, because I felt a really strong desire to get into the spiritual world, and I was trying in my own way as best as I could, but I strongly felt the need for someone like Don Juan to take my hand and guide me.
Wow. Would you say that is very central to yoga in general, or can you do yoga like a lot of people in the West do without a personal mentor and a personal master, just by learning techniques, just by learning science and principles behind it?
Of course you can, but immediately you start to get into deep water. You will, if you're going fast and going deep, you will at some point, wonder, what on earth am I doing? And I think you do meet people who get confused or who try their best on their own and get into difficulty.
So then you met the founder of this tradition. I guess you met that founder in person as well.
I did, yeah.
Which is a big difference to a lot of people who start this kind of practice now. We don't get to see him in person. That is also, for me personally, a big obstacle because I don't have those stories. I hear those stories of people meeting the founder and all the incredible stuff that happened in that time. And you know, today I'm actually telling a story in the evening during the program here at this convention. And I thought, do I have any stories where I personally connected with that figure? I had to scramble and I couldn't really find one. And that is a bit frustrating for me as a new kind of aspirant on this journey. I have been doing it for a long time, but only recently I really got more serious about it. How do you advise young people like me who want to build a relationship with this founder and this spiritual master?
Well, fortunately, our master left a lot of ways that we can connect with him, both through exhaustive philosophical teachings. So actually, I think most of although I tremendously treasure the personal experiences that I had with my master, as far as actual guidance is concerned, I got most of that through studying the works that he left, the philosophy. And I got most of that through the chanting and the meditation practices. And in fact, in some ways, you know, when he was in his physical body, there was a lot of competition. It wasn't that easy to see him.
Yeah.
And in a strange way, I felt a bit of more freedom and release to connect with him when he left his body, because then you're on the same footing with everybody.
Democratized access.
Yes, exactly. And I even sometimes had the thought that maybe he left his body in order to be able to connect with more people.
Yeah. That also connects to an idea that you talked about today, which is that in a way people are not just physical objects. They are in some way a vibration, a wavelength that's carrying on through infinity. I think in a way that's true for every person. Every person leaves some kind of vibration in the world, and even if it's a very low amplitude, it's probably going to just carry on, and there's going to be a lot of resistance, a lot of factors that's going to reduce the amplitude, but in a way, if you look very closely, it's always going to be there. And you had this concept of people as sonic creatures. Maybe you can expand on how you got to that phrasing and how you got to that idea.
I think it started when one morning I woke up. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. So we're constantly trying to I think meditation is a lot about letting go of anything that limits you and focusing on things which will expand you. So one morning I woke up and I just had this idea, I'm not a person. And I thought, that's so liberating, because even if you spend your entire life trying to be a good person, there's going to be some person who's better than you, or you know, things like that. So the concept of being a person itself is actually not what we're aiming at in yoga. We're aiming to transcend being a limited person and to connect with the universal consciousness that is our foundation. And I just, this phrase flashed in my head, I'm not a person. And I was ecstatic the whole day just thinking about that. It was so liberating. And then other ideas sort of came into my mind, that I am light, I am a song. And then I had a meditation experience not too long ago where we were meditating on our mantra, Bhavanam Kevalam. And I felt suddenly that sonic experience of the mantra was God in the form of sound. And many teachers have talked about Nada Brahma, so the Om sound, the divine sound, God in the form of sound. And that as I meditated on the mantra, I felt like I was connecting with God in the form of sound. And we have this principle that you become what you focus on. So if you're constantly focusing on a mantra, a sound, a sonic thing, one's existence is gradually becoming more and more sonic, and less, physical or material in a more cruder sense. So I had that, just a short flash of that experience, and it awakened my curiosity. And then I went looking in our master's writings for something like that. And I found this phrase, which I shared, that Shiva's existence was indeed sonic. And I thought, yes. And I thought our own master in so many ways is a sonic existence and remains with us as a sonic existence. And then also that kind of spilled over, and thinking about the things that I see, everything that we see in the world is physical, mental, and spiritual, or it has a material existence and it has a sonic existence also. Why do we always focus on the cruder aspect, which is the physical side? Isn't it much more spacious, a lot more freedom and fresh air if you kind of see existence, see yourself, and see God in that subtlest level, as a sonic vibration?
How would you argue with someone who says light is more subtle than sound, or fire is more subtle than sound? Why would you think that sound is that most subtle medium?
Well, according to the studies that yogis have done, the five senses vary in their degree of subtlety. So the crudest senses are taste and smell. So they are classified as tamoguna. And then the rajaguna, or changeable, active sense, is the sight. And then the next most subtle is the sense of touch, right? And the subtlest of all of them is sound or hearing. And when consciousness gradually is compressed into mind, it goes through different stages. And the first stage is sound, pure sound. And then the more compressed stage is sound plus touch, so gas or air or wind. And then as you compress still further, there's light and heat and fire, and compress further, liquid and solid, etc. So according to yoga philosophy, the sense of sound is the subtlest.
And I guess that's not something you can scientifically test or really prove. It's more of a tradition that at this point we trust and that we feel.
I'm sure, I'm not a scientist in that sense, but I think there would be probably ways of proving it scientifically that certain of the senses, one thing is that sound doesn't have any other characteristics, whereas touch has both sound and touch, and then sight has sound and touch, and so a solid object, the crudest of all, has a taste, has a smell, has a visual quality, has a touch quality. So that sort of is a practical demonstration of that. Yeah.
In the meditation, one of the things we do is we repeat these sounds, and we also focus on different chakras. It's always been a bit of a mystery for me still to really understand what the chakras are. I know there's lots of definitions. Probably everyone who's touched some way with yoga has heard about it, but how would you define the chakras?
I think one of the interesting ways of looking at them is that they're kind of like the interface between the body and the mind. So kind of like this mind gets born into a new body, how does that mind connect with that body? So we have these 7 psychic chakras, and they are kind of the linking points that connect with different nerve centers and glands and so forth. And then the interaction between the mind and the body happens through those chakras. And then on another sense, they are an interface with the universe. Okay, so with the lower chakras we are connecting vibrationally, and we are influenced, and we influence the environment around us. As you get to higher chakras, like the heart chakra, this is called the solar plexus. So it's where we receive vibrations, and how we are affected by the sun is primarily through this chakra. And this chakra is primarily affected by the stars in general, and this chakra by the moon, right? So a kind of interface.
Yeah, I understand. And one idea of meditation then is also to really focus on those chakras and kind of zoom in and bring everything down to this focused point where you feel like your whole existence is collapsing into that singular point, which is also a beautiful metaphor, but in a way it also contradicts a little bit with the idea of a wave. A wave and the singular point. How do you bring those two metaphors together?
I think, I mean, first of all, everything will have maybe some different types of vibrations. So, I mean, you have a physical, I can see you, but you also have a sound, right? But I think as you are withdrawing your mind to your chakra point, you are gradually detaching from the physical aspect of it. And the more you detach from the physical aspect, the more you open up to the wave aspect of something. So it's like if I'm looking at a beautiful scene, but there's a black circle in front of me. As that circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller, the scenery gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So as you withdraw on one level, you are opening up your capacity to experience on a subtler level.
I got it.
So shifting from form to frequency.
Yeah, that's a beautiful image. Now I get it. How has this whole practice influenced the way people perceive you? You've probably given a lot of talks like the one you gave today. You've probably had a lot of conversations like this. Did you see a lot of shifts in how you speak, how your wave hits the world?
Yeah, I think our capacity to communicate will depend upon our ability to connect. And I gave the example today of if I have a doll and I throw it at the wall, it's going to hit the wall and bounce off. So the more of my baggage and the more of my body and the more of my idea of myself as a material physical being I carry with me, the harder it is going to be for me to connect with someone on a subtle level, to really kind of connect and feel their feelings and ideas and so forth. So a humble, quiet person, kind of, people like to talk to somebody because they feel listened to, they feel that they connect with someone much more deeply than if they're talking with someone who has half their attention on their mobile phone or is thinking about themselves or their own problems. So the more we can shrink ourselves and become almost invisible, we automatically are communicating just because we are more capable, we are more porous. Yeah.
I just have to remember a principle from a book I read. Its name is power. It's a bit Machiavellian, this book, written by Robert Greene, and one of the big rules, 48 laws of power, is be formless. Because that way also it's very difficult to attack you. You're just a wave.
Exactly. Exactly, yeah.
Wonderful. There's a lot of people that I work with, a lot of people in my audience also. They're really interested in becoming more confident, better at public speaking, better at communicating with strangers. And there I always struggle a bit, because on the one hand you can do a lot of more superficial exercises like voice training. You can teach affirmations and good habits and personal development. But I always feel at the foundation of all of that, there's got to be some kind of spiritual practice, because that's ultimately what gets you to realize that true self and that single point that you are, the wave that you are. How would you go about it when someone comes and says, hey, I have a lot of social anxiety, I really don't know how to connect with others, I'm lonely? How do you balance that and manage the expectation that they have, which is, I want to have a kind of quick fix. I don't want to spend 2 years meditating before that problem gets solved.
I think that even a step in the right direction feels better than, even if, say, establishing oneself in a certain meditative state might take a whole lifetime. It's one step in the right direction will feel better and more useful than doing something which is of only temporary and partial significance. So the real solution ultimately to confidence is realizing and connecting with and identifying with that which is indestructible within oneself. And people intuitively will know that any other thing that doesn't deal with that lack of real sense of myself as something indestructible isn't a real solution. They may try it, it's some technique or something but it's not really going to address the issue of confidence. And the issue of confidence comes when we learn real confidence comes when we learn how not to identify with everything that's limiting and negative, and how to identify that which, that in ourselves which is eternal, indestructible, and infinite. And, people don't have to be perfect if they feel they're moving in the right direction. That is some kind of reassurance. So the journey is long, but it gives that sense of, yes, finally I'm focused in somewhere meaningful.
A lot of people have that sense that whatever they're doing in their careers and their personal lives is not really meaningful. But then there's also a lot of people, and that's really my last question to you, that have a lot of things going in their life and they have huge ambitions. And I think I also count myself as part of that group, where I could keep myself busy and growing in my personal development and my business growth. And sometimes I wonder, do I have enough of that yearning to grow spiritually? Do I have enough pain in that area? Do I really feel not fulfilled? Or could I just be engaged with all these worldly projects and be pretty happy as long as it goes up and everything keeps getting a bit better? What do you think about, or what do you say to people who feel like, I'm not sure if I really want to expand spiritually? My life is going okay. I'm busy and there's a lot of problems to solve and it's fun. How do you work with people like that? Probably not at all, because they don't come to you.
No, it's definitely more difficult to sell meditation to people who are totally content. But I would just say, why not get even more of a good thing? Because whatever you are doing, you will appreciate it more, you will do it better, you will enjoy it more, the more calm, focused, and detached you are. So you will be able to fit in more, you will make less mistakes, do things more efficiently, and be able to get more of what you're enjoying on a deeper level if you are able to be more centered when you do everything.
Great. Thanks so much, Dada. I'm really happy that we had the time. And is there anything else that you feel like needs to be added to this discussion, all these topics that we covered? Maybe you can also tell people how they can reach you in case they want to actually get to know you better.
Well, I don't have that much more to add. You've asked very interesting questions. As far as contacting, I live at our ashram in Denmark called Ananda Gauri.
It's a beautiful place. I visited a few times.
And we have a website so they can reach me through there. I also have my own small YouTube channel called Meditation Inspiration. So you can
One
contact
word,
me.
Meditation Inspiration. I'll post the link as well in the video description. And Ananda Gauri, I heard, also has an Erasmus student program.
Mm-hmm.
Students can actually live there for a while and learn about ecological agriculture and also learn about meditation from you.
Yeah. At Ananda Gauri, we try to give people an experience of the yoga lifestyle, and we focus on three things: spirituality, community, and sustainability. So I think a lot of young people want to not just hear about things, but to get a taste of what something different actually feels like. Yeah.
Great, thanks so much. I'm looking forward to visiting you there again, and all the best with all your projects. Thank you, namaskar.
Thank you very much. Namaskar.